All right, let's go ahead and get started at leveling up from the Python packaging system, which has essentially many ways to do it, which is a Perl type quality, which is surprising since Python was a response to Perl. And we're going to level up with Cargo. And what's nice about Cargo and the crate system is that you can quickly get started with many utilities like building web microservices, building command line tools, doing Hugging Face, doing PyTorch, using GPUs. All those capabilities are available with the Rust ecosystem, and it's very simple in many ways, much more simple than Python. And what we're going to do is use one of the world's fastest web frameworks, whether it's fast this week or fast next week. It's kind of like if you're in a Chevy Malibu and you drive a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, which one's faster? They're both fast, right? It really doesn't matter which one's fast, but it's one of the fastest web frameworks ever created. And we're going to see how it's actually simple to install it, simple to build a microservice in Rust and actually run it and even deploy it because the binary is created for us. All right, let's go ahead and get started with leveling up with Rust packaging. One of the more troubling things about any library that you're going to use is it going to be accessible in a way that's going to be a nice install path, or is it going to be really a struggle to get it working? Fortunately, with the Rust crate system, you can go to the community crate registry and you can see here that there's tremendous growth here in the amount of crates or packages that are available. And you can see here just a tremendous amount of downloads. In fact, if we look at one of the areas of research that I've done is to look at some popular instrumentation around what are the libraries that are growing according to languages. We can see here that Python obviously has been doing exponential growth. We see that Ruby is actually logarithmic, right? So we see that potentially it's going to go into a steady state or decline. But look at this. We see that, in fact, Cargo is maybe at the early stages of a massive exponential growth curve here. So there is traction that's happening. In fact, you could even say that the exponential growth in the Rust ecosystem is quicker than the exponential growth with Python. So let's go ahead and take a look at the crate system here. And if I wanted to use a web framework, right, that a lot of people want to build microservices. One of the first things I would do, I would go into here, take a look, and you can see different web frameworks. And I think what people really would want to do is look at the downloads, right, and recent downloads here. And you can see here, this is just a tremendous amount of downloads here. And so we can see here, this is a description. Actix Web is a powerful, pragmatic, fast framework for Rust. Take a look at all this stuff. And it's trivial. If you just copy this, you can put it into your project, which is awesome. And if we look at one of the things that they talk about here in terms of the Hello World example, like trivial, right? This looks just like Flask or Fast API here. So if we go back now to our GitHub Codespaces, what I'm going to do is just quickly get a microservice running. So let's go ahead and go to code. I'm going to open up an existing Codespace here and just get started. Cargo, new, and we're going to call this one calc, right? So I'm going to build a calculator-based web service. It's a nice way to kick the tires. So again, what do? Look, I have a Cargo file here, and all I have to do is go back to this section and find the Cargo 2ML copy, go over here and just throw it in there. It's trivial. And notice that this ecosystem shows me exactly what versions and everything. It's all done automatically for me. So now we're almost ready to go. All right, now all I have to do is touch a library file. So I'll go to source lib.rs. Next. All right, now that we got this library file here, let's go ahead and just add what we're going to do. We're going to say build calculator functions, right? And so we'll go through here and we'll say, add two numbers, right? So we're going to first build that. There we go. So do I really need to know how to write this exactly perfectly, right? It's intuitive. My logic is clear here. Let's go ahead and build out this function here. And look, this exposes it to later the web service, right? We want to make these public. We can do add, subtract, multiply exactly. And then we also can do a divide, right? So this is pretty intuitive, right? Public, the function syntax, the name of the function. These are the inputs. and the types of those inputs. And this is actually the return value. So very, very intuitive code here, right? This is almost like Python, except for it looks slightly different. So all right, now we have the main file, right? What we're going to do is orchestrate all of the library code, right? We're going to pull this in and call it and make a microservice. And it's quite easy. So what do? First step, let's go ahead and say, web microservice for calculating the sum of, for calculating multiple types of operations of mathematical expressions. Perfect. And so now we would just go through here and we'd say use, and we would say Actix web. Now, one thing I want to add here, right? So the Copilot isn't perfect, is I want to do get methods as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and say get, and I'm going to make a home page here that says hello world. And what's nice about this is I can actually riff on this a little bit and say, this is a calculator microservice. Perfect. Now, next step, we're going to say add exactly, right? And I'm going to go through here and take a look. And also, it's not necessarily going to do exactly what I want. So I might have to tweak this a little bit. So I'm going to tune it a little bit and say async function add, and I'm going to say info, right? So I can make sure that I've got all of the right things here tied in. And then this looks right. Yeah, so I have to tune it a little bit. I have to tell it, hey, I want you to look at the right spot and do all this stuff. Now, this is not also what I want, because what I want to do here is I want to use the library, right? So I have to watch it. It can't be, left totally by itself. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and use the library that we built together. And then from this particular example, let's actually recalculate. And then we've got a good example. So this, I believe, will let us build the rest quite easily. There we go. And let's see what it does. Is Copilot smart enough to follow that same pattern? Yep. Now it's going to start using the library. So this is key, right? Is to iterate. And I could even format, right? I could go through here and say make format code. Look, there we go. We got that thing cooking. Now, next up, let's go ahead and add a multiply, right? And again, let's double check. Looks good. We're using the calculator library. What else are we going to do? Divide. Looking good. All right, so we're almost done now. And what I'm going to need to do is obviously have a main method. Like every web framework in Python does that. And look at this. We got this thing all wired up. Those functions get added inside as a service. And now I just need to go ahead and put in what it is that I care about in terms of, the host configuration. So we're going to go 001. We're going to do 8080. We're actually going to put both of these brackets here just to make sure it's nice and syntactically correct. Do .run and then do an await, right? Because this is async, super fast framework. Let's go ahead and format it. There we go. We formatted the code. And now the magic, linting, perfect, right? If it passes lint, very, very good chance that it'll run. So we can just type in cargo run, or we can do make run, right? Because I've got that set up in the make file. So let's go ahead and do, make run here. And if things go correctly, what will happen is it'll open this up inside of GitHub Codespaces preview, and we can verify that everything is working successfully. And this is really one of the great things about using Rust, is that once you've got the lint working and it compiles, you can be very confident. There we go. Here's a microservice. If we say add 2 and 2, bingo, we got 4 working, right? So this is quite impressive, how powerful it is. But we're not done, because deployment is already essentially done for us. All right, here we go. Look at this. The binary that was created, production first mindset, is good to go. All I need to do is put in my route, add 2 and 2. Bingo, we've got this working. So in my opinion, again, this is one of the world's fastest web frameworks, trivial to build applications, super solid code because of the Cargo ecosystem. And then it builds a binary where I just put the binary somewhere and I can run it. In my opinion, this is leveling up from the Python web ecosystem.